Seen some algae blooms forming in Twin Cities lakes, warnings about water quality. These seem to be perennial problems, of course, as waters warm and are fed by the runoff. In Iowa, the concerns stretch across the state: lakes, rivers, streams, runoff from farm fields, from fertilizers, and feeding a serious study of the extent of the problems and the effectiveness of the solutions. So we're joined now by somebody who knows a little bit about the problems in both states. That's Michael Schmidt, the General Counsel for the Iowa Environmental Council, and a former attorney at the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency as well. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you know a little bit about the problems facing both states and how they may be similar, how they may be varied. I see you have a degree from the University of Minnesota, a law degree, but your BA in political science from the University of Iowa. So you're somebody that spanned both states throughout your career. How did you wind up moving from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency now to the Iowa Environmental Council?
I grew up in Iowa and wanted to be closer to family, and a position opened up working on water quality issues in Iowa, and that was what I had done in Minnesota. So I took it and have been working here in Iowa for the last 7 years.
Now, I've read some of the recent blog posts on your site, and there was an Associated Press article recently too, kind of covering the concerns about water quality in Iowa. In the AP article, it said that more than half the sections of rivers, streams, and lakes at the state tract in 2024 did not meet the standards for swimming, drinking, or aquatic life. That seems like a pretty remarkable statistic. What are the kind of things here that you guys are tracking when you look at numbers like that?
Yeah, the biggest concern right now in central Iowa is with drinking water. The drinking water sources that the Des Moines area relies on are so polluted that we have a lawn watering ban in place, not because we lack water, but because they can't treat enough water to provide water for both drinking and lawn watering. That's an ongoing concern this summer. We've had high nitrate throughout the year. And so Des Moines Water Works, which has one of the highest or the largest nitrate removal facilities in the world, has been running that all year. At the same time, we have beaches that get advisories telling people not to swim because there is high E. coli or because there is microcystin in the water. That happens every summer in beaches across the state.
Are you finding any differences, or what are the differences, I should say, between, say, Iowa and Minnesota, or Iowa and the Dakotas, or Illinois and Wisconsin? What are the similarities in the water quality issues we face, and what are the differences that may be unique to Iowa?
I think in a lot of the Midwestern states, we have issues with agricultural pollution from fertilizer and manure, things like that. So that is consistent across the Midwest. But in Iowa, those problems are more pronounced. Part of that is because we have so many concentrated animal feeding operations. We have more than twice as many of these facilities as any other state. And we produce the manure equivalent of more than 100 million people in Iowa. And the manure from livestock doesn't go through a wastewater treatment plant like it would if it came from our own homes. It gets applied to the land and then can get into the water.
So go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We also have the largest area of tile drainage in the country. We have about a quarter of the nation's tile drainage, which is essentially pipes in the ground to lower the groundwater table. And that acts as a vector that sends nitrate from the soil and from fertilizer directly into our surface waters.
Yeah, we've seen similar issues and concerns about drainage tiles up here, certainly in like the Fargo and Grand Forks areas too, where there's so much drainage tile installed, and you understand that farmers want to get the fields dried out, especially in the spring, so they can get in and plant, but the more rapid drain off leads to flooding concerns in the watersheds. And you're saying too, though, also contributing to much more runoff of the nitrates and other concerning elements that go into the water system.
Yeah, we don't have an area quite like the Red River Basin where it's so flat that the tile drainage can cause such major flooding downstream. But we do have flooding issues sometimes in Iowa as well. The bigger issue lately has been water quality rather than quantity, because we rely on rivers for drinking water.
Now, what is being done about this? I mean, you obviously, your organization advocates for, changes here. I know the state of Iowa relies on voluntary actions and incentives. There aren't really mandates. What is being done? What is being encouraged? What is being looked at that can help improve the water quality across Iowa?
There is some funding for conservation practices, but not at the scale that we need to make a big difference, and also not at the scale that Minnesota has. Minnesota has a constitutional amendment to help fund those practices and to fund monitoring and other water quality efforts. Iowa passed a similar amendment, but it did not come with the funding. The legislature will have to proactively raise the sales tax itself, and it has not done that since Iowa passed that amendment 16 years ago. So we've been sitting with this empty trust fund for the last 16 years, and the legislature has not taken action to fill it. And as a result, we don't have as much money to address water quality concerns here as in Minnesota.
So where would you put where are we at right now across the state of Iowa with these water quality concerns? What level of concern is there? And, when you look out over the next 5 years, where is it going?
I am extremely concerned because we have seen changes that suggest a pretty bad trend. We have had high nitrate throughout the winter, which has not happened regularly in the past. Des Moines Waterworks has run its nitrate removal facility nearly all year so far this year, which is also very unusual. Normally that happens in the summer. And we didn't have a dry year last year. We also had a lawn watering ban last year, I think for the first time ever. So this is now becoming a trend, and it's becoming a greater concern for providing safe drinking water for people across the state. We also have pollution in private wells, so it's not just the Des Moines area or major rivers. Groundwater is also being polluted.
So what are you advocating for? What kind of action do you want to see in the near future to try to turn that trend?
We need some changes in how we are applying manure and synthetic fertilizer, because right now we are sending a lot of it downstream. So we need either better oversight or some kind of restriction and changes in the economic incentives so that farmers are not stuck feeling like they have to apply more manure or more fertilizer to make sure that they get a good crop. We need changes in the economics so that they can apply less and not worry that they won't get by if we have unusual weather.
Yeah, always a difficult balancing act to make sure that you're protecting the waters without hurting farmers, which is a major part of the economy of Iowa and certainly even the economy of the entire nation.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, thanks so much. I appreciate your time. I grew up mainly in Iowa as well. Where'd you grow up?
In Windsor Heights.
Oh, okay. I grew up in Des Moines and Decorah. So
all right.
In Clive. So not far from you.
Yeah, I live in Clive now.
Yeah, and my wedding reception was at right near Waterworks Park. So I know very at the Isaac Walton League. So I know very well what you're referring to. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you very much.
All right.